So, shall we start, everyone? Where are you all? Voice is audible. Screen visible, everyone. Switch on the videos, please. Come on. Okay. So, my dear friends, the next section which we are going to do is section 192A. 192A. Okay. So, you might have heard that, see, premature withdrawal from Provident Fund. Premature withdrawal from RPF account. So within 5 years, if you leave your employment, if you remember salary chapter we have done. So if you are receiving an amount, lump sum amount from RPF, and if that lump sum amount you are receiving after completing 5 years of your service, then that lump sum amount is exempt under section 1012. But what if within 5 years you are leaving your employment, and within 5 years if you receive that amount, okay, the reason for leaving was not beyond your control, you have yourself resigned from the employment, you have not transferred that amount to your new employer, you have not transferred that amount to NPS account. In that particular case, within 5 years if you are leaving the employment and you are receiving that amount from RPF, that amount is known as premature withdrawal. Okay, so that amount which is a premature withdrawal which you are receiving, on that amount also the TDS is deducted. So TDS under section 192A will be deducted out of this amount. Getting my point? So that amount of premature withdrawal, on that amount the TDS will be deducted. So TDS under section 192A at the time of payment. Now who is going to get this amount? Who is the payee? Payee has to be an employee. He can be a resident or a non-resident. And who is the payer? Payer will be the trustees of that provident fund. So the trustees who will be maintaining that trust, under whose name the provident fund is maintained, yes or no? So trustees are going to make that payment, and the payment will be made to the employee within 5 years, meaning premature withdrawal. And that premature withdrawal is not exempt under section 10 subsection 12. So the amount coming from the provident fund account, that is not exempt. RPF account, that is not exempt. Premature withdrawal, and on that the TDS will be deducted at the time of making the payment. Now the TDS will be deducted under section 192A, and this TDS will be deducted at the rate of 10%. So unlike your salary, here the rate of TDS is mentioned, proper rate 10%. TDS will be deducted at what rate? 10%. Okay. Now if you will see now, see if I will show you 192A. Okay. In your ICI study mat, if you come, ICI study mat, okay. In your ICI study mat, there is a table given in the end of the chapter. If you see, I will tell you the page number. Okay. Other TDS provisions. See, other TDS provisions, and it is on page number 7.47. If you come to 7.47, you can see 192A. Right. Now in 192A, they have told you the payment or aggregate of payment greater than or equal to 50,000. What they are saying? Greater than or equal to 50,000. So what is the meaning of this? That if that premature withdrawal from the RPF, if the amount of this payment is greater than or equal to 50,000, then the TDS will be deducted. Now this TDS will be deducted at the time of payment, but the TDS will be deducted on the taxable amount. Which amount? Taxable amount. Now tell me, if you remember that whatever lump sum which is coming to you from the provident fund, do you remember 4 parts are there in that lump sum? Employees contribution is also coming. Then interest on employees compensation contribution is there. Employers contribution is also coming. Interest on employers contribution is also there. So these 4 parts are there. So if I say that the entire premature withdrawal, the amount of this premature withdrawal, meaning this lump sum amount. Okay. So a lump sum amount is coming from RPF. You have to check that the lump sum amount, the total amount coming to you, the total payment which is given has to be 50,000 rupees or more. Has to be 50,000 rupees or more. If this total payment is less than 50, no TDS will be deducted. Exception. So if I ask you that 192A will not be applicable, what is the exception? Exception is if the total payment coming to you is less than 50, no TDS will be there. Exception. But if that payment is 50,000 or more, then there will be TDS at the rate of 10%. At the time of payment, the TDS will be there. But remember, the TDS at the rate of 10% will not be deducted on the entire payment. The TDS will be deducted on the taxable amount. On the taxable amount. And what is the taxable amount? Shrikant, tell me, what is the taxable amount? Employees' contribution coming back to me is not an income only, ignore. So out of the total amount, employees' contribution coming to me is not an income, ignore. But other 3 amounts are taxable, no? Interest on employees' contribution taxable under the head IFOS. Employers' contribution, interest on employers' contribution will be taxable as my profit in lieu of salary under the head salary. So out of the total amount, the total amount should be 50,000 or more. But out of that total amount, whatever taxable amount is there, taxable amount can be any amount. It can be less than 50, it can be more than 50. Taxable amount can be any amount. On that taxable amount, the TDS will be deducted. Understanding? So what if the total payment coming is 4 lakh rupees? How much? 4 lakhs. Is it more than 50,000? Yes. TDS will be deducted? Yes. But the TDS will not be deducted on entire 4 lakhs. Because out of that 4 lakhs, some amount will be employees' contribution which is coming back. That is not an income only, ignore that amount. So for example, in 4 lakhs, 75,000 was the employees' contribution. Sorry, not 75, let's say 1,25,000 was the employees' contribution. So out of 4 lakh, 1,25,000 is the employees' contribution coming back to you. Ignore that amount because that is not an income only. So how much is remaining? 2,75,000. Out of that 2,75,000, some interest will be taxable under the head IFOS. Interest on employees' contribution. Some amount will be employers' contribution. Interest on employers' contribution. That is the taxable amount. So that entire 2,75,000, which is a taxable amount out of that 4 lakhs, on that 10% TDS will be deducted. Will you remember? Will you remember this? This is 192A, done. So as compared to 192, 192A is more easy. What 192A says? That if the trustees of the Provident Fund are making the payment of premature withdrawal from RPF account to any employee can be a resident or a non-resident, on this premature withdrawal amount, the TDS will be deducted under section 192A at the rate of 10%, and this TDS will be deducted at the time of payment. TDS will be deducted at the time of payment. And how much TDS will be deducted? 10%. The TDS will be deducted only if the total payment is more than or equal to 50,000, and the TDS will be deducted on the taxable amount and not the entire amount. Understood? Done, sir? This is 192A. Now, we'll move to, after 192A, we'll move to 193. We'll move to 193. Now see, payer. Payer is issuer of securities, and payee is any resident person who is an investor, who has invested in the securities. So why would you invest in any securities, guys? Securities means debentures, bonds, government securities, yes or no? Why would you invest in securities? Because after investing in securities, you will get interest. So to earn that interest, you will invest in securities. So the issuer who has issued those securities, that issuer is going to pay what? Pay interest. Interest on what? Securities. On that interest on securities, the TDS will be deducted under section 193, and the TDS will be deducted at the rate of 10%, and the TDS will be deducted at the time of payment or credit, whichever happens earlier. So when the interest will be paid or when the interest will be credited, whichever happens earlier, at that time TDS will be deducted on the entire amount of interest, whatever may be the amount of interest. So the issuer who has issued the securities is going to pay the interest on securities, and if that interest is paid to any resident, remember I am mentioning the word resident, only then this 193 provision will be applicable. If the interest is paid to any other person who is not a resident, then will there be any TDS? The answer is yes, there will be TDS. But TDS will not be as per 193. For that, the TDS provisions are different, which you are not going to learn right now. Those TDS provisions are there in CA final. Majority of the TDS provisions are there in your syllabus, which are applicable only for residents. Okay. So the TDS provisions with regard to non-residents, you are going to learn them in CA final. Understanding? So right now I am talking about interest on securities. Who will receive that interest on securities? Any resident person who is receiving that interest on securities. So the issuer of that securities who is giving that interest will deduct TDS under section 193. At what rate? 10%. And when the TDS will be deducted? The TDS will be deducted at the time of payment or at the time of credit, whichever happens earlier. So if the interest is credited in the month of April and that interest is paid in the month of May, so April or May, whichever happens earlier, April, so the TDS will be deducted at the time of credit in the month of April. Understanding? Hello, what if the payment is made first? So first the issuer is making the payment, then the issuer is giving the credit in the books. So payment is made in the month of June and the credit is happening in the month of July. So payment June, credit July, whichever happens earlier, payment June. So TDS will be deducted in the month of June at the time of making the payment. Understood? Sure, sir. Now what are the exceptions? Here in section 193, exceptions are important because there are few exceptions which you need to keep in mind. Okay, so come to section 193 in your ICI study mat. I will show you. Okay, and I will mark those exceptions, only those exceptions you are supposed to remember right now. Come to section 193. Okay, see, this is section 193. If you can see, section 193 talks about TDS on interest on securities. Okay, now see, yes, this point number 5. Okay, non-applicability. What they are saying? Non-applicability. Non-applicability of TDS under section 193. Can you see no tax deduction is to be made from any interest payable on national development bond, 7-year national savings certificate, fourth issue, then on debentures issued by any institution or authority or any public sector company or any cooperative society as notified by the central government. Then there will be point number 4 on any security of the central government or state government. Then there is point number 5 on securities to LIC, GIC, subsidiaries. Now out of all these points, no, you are supposed to remember only 3 points. Only 3 points. 3 points are important. Okay. Remember this point. Remember this point. And remember this point. 3 points you are supposed to remember. Okay. Now in these 3 cases, even if the interest is paid on even if interest is paid on securities, but on this interest on security, 193 provisions of section 193 are not applicable. Meaning there will be no TDS as per section 193. No need to deduct any TDS. So if you are getting this interest in this case, there will be no TDS. So first case is you are receiving interest on what? Debentures. So do you have debentures? Yes. On debentures you are getting interest? Yes. On that interest there will be no TDS. But wait, which debentures? Any debentures? No. They are saying that debentures which are issued by an institution, authority or any public sector company or any cooperative society, including a cooperative land mortgage bank or a cooperative land development bank as notified by the central government. So can I say debentures of notified institutions, notified authority, notified public sector companies, notified cooperative societies. Hello, just a second. Interest on debentures of notified institution, authority, cooperative society, public sector company. So the company must be public sector company. That company must be notified. The authority, the institution must be notified. The cooperative society must be notified. Debentures of these notified institutions, on that debenture whatever interest will come, on that interest there will be no TDS. Even if it is interest on securities, whatever amount of interest is given, there will be no TDS. Now with this regard, they have central government has notified the debentures of Power Finance Corporation, hello, then Indian Railways Finance Corporation. We have seen these two institutions in capital gains, if you remember. If you invest in the bonds of Power Finance Corporation, based on that investment you get exemption under 54 AC. If you invest in bonds of IRFC, based on that investment you will get 54 EC exemption. But on those bonds, whenever you will get interest, on that interest there will be no TDS. It is given in section 193 exceptions. Will you remember this? Hello, next one. So no tax is required to be deducted at source. No tax is required to be deducted at source on interest payable on bonds of Power Finance Corporation and IRFC. Okay, first. Second one, any security. They are saying any security of the central government or state government. So if you have invested in the CG or SG securities, the bonds or the debentures or securities issued by central government or state government, on those securities if you are getting interest, whatever amount of interest is there, there will be no TDS. There will be no TDS. But wait, there are two bonds. Number one, 8% savings taxable bond 2003, and 7.75% saving taxable bond 2018. But last year there is an amendment and one more bond has been introduced. That was floating rate savings bonds 2020. So these are the bonds issued by the central government only. These are the securities issued by the central government only. Sir, you have said that central government securities or state government securities, whatever interest will come, on that interest there will be no TDS. But sir, if you get interest on these three securities, if you get interest on these three securities and the amount of that interest during the previous year is up to 10,000, then there will be no TDS. So there is a monetary limit over here. If on these three securities the total interest during the previous year is more than 10,000, then on that entire interest the TDS will be deducted. Entire interest. I am not saying interest over and above 10,000. No. So for example, you have invested in floating rate taxable bonds 2020. So central government has issued these bonds and you have purchased these bonds. And on these bonds, the total interest coming to you during the year is 18,000. How much? 18,000. On that entire 18,000, the TDS will be deducted because the amount is more than 10,000. Understanding? But what if the total interest coming is only 8,000? During the previous year, the total interest received by you on these securities is only 8,000. Then there will be no TDS because the amount of interest during the year is not more than 10,000. Hence, there will be no TDS. But for other securities, other government securities, any amount of interest, there will be no TDS. Will you remember this? Hello, sir. Next one. Now they are saying that on securities, can you see this word? This is a very important one. I have highlighted something. To. To means what? If the interest is given to whom? Interest is given to LIC, interest is given to GIC, interest is given to subsidiaries of GIC, interest is given to any other insurance company. So if the payee receiving the interest, what did I say? If the payee who is receiving the interest is LIC, GIC, subsidiaries of GIC or any other insurance company. So if these are the payees and they are receiving interest, there will be no TDS deducted from the interest on securities which they are going to receive. Understanding or not? The reason is very simple, that LIC, GIC, insurance companies, they have thousands of crores, hundreds of crores, which they will invest in different companies, different securities. So if everyone will start deducting the TDS, the government will have to put more efforts to recover that tax amount from different payers. So what the government is saying, that all the issuers, this LIC, GIC, they have huge amount of money. So they are going to invest in different securities of different issuers. So all of you all issuers are going to deduct the TDS. Then we'll have to run behind all of you to recover that TDS amount from you all, which you might have deducted. So do one thing, if you are making payment to LIC, no, don't deduct TDS, because LIC is going to get the interest from so many payers. Understanding? So we are not going to tell you all to deduct TDS. You all don't deduct TDS if you are making the payment to LIC. If you are making the payment to GIC, we are going to collect the tax directly from them. You all don't deduct the TDS because it will be very difficult for us to recover that tax from you all later on. Understood? So if the payee is LIC, GIC, subsidiaries of GIC or any insurance company, if they are receiving what interest on securities, on the interest on securities received by them, there will be no TDS under section 193. These three exceptions you are supposed to remember. Keep in mind. Understanding, everyone? Hello? Now, what are we going to do? See, after 193, no? After section 193, okay? So, here I will write, first of all, in section 193. Exceptions. Okay. Exceptions. Only 3 exceptions you are supposed to remember. I have written 3. Which 3 exceptions you are supposed to remember? I have already explained. Okay. Understanding? Now, see, there is one section 194 and there is one more section 194K. Whenever you read, you do these two sections together because both the sections are same. Both the sections talk about the same thing. This section also talks about dividend. This section also talks about dividend. So this is dividend. Dividend on what? Shares. And this is dividend on units. Now tell me, dividend on shares. Who will give this dividend? Company. Which company? Domestic company. And who will give the dividend? Domestic company will give the dividend on shares. To whom? To the shareholder. But the shareholder must be a resident. Shareholder must be a resident. So, a domestic company giving dividend on shares to any resident shareholder. And either the UTI or mutual fund will give the dividend on what? Units. So dividend will be given to any resident unit holder. UH means unit holder. So you might be holding units, so you are a unit holder. You might be holding shares, so you are a shareholder. But you must be a resident. All the provisions which we are going to do, we are doing, all the provisions are applicable if the payee is a resident. So wherever the payee is a non-resident, I will specifically tell you. Okay. But we have to remember the provisions which we are learning right now in CA Intermediate are applicable only for residents. Only those provisions are there in your syllabus. Okay, no? So if the shareholder is a resident shareholder, if the unit holder is a resident unit holder, getting what? Dividend. Getting what? Dividend. Dividend on shares or dividend on units. And that dividend will be given by any domestic company or any UTI or mutual fund. So on this dividend, the TDS will be deducted under section 194. And on this dividend, the TDS will be deducted under section 194K. What is the rate of TDS, sir? At the rate of 10%. At the rate of 10%. So 10% TDS will be deducted. At the time of payment or credit, whichever is earlier, at the time of payment or credit, whichever is earlier. Okay. But wait. The TDS will not be deducted if the aggregate amount of dividend given by the domestic company or a UTI or mutual fund during the previous year to that shareholder does not exceed 10,000. Please remember that limit of 10,000. Till last year that limit was 5,000. This year they have updated the limit to 10,000. So since there is a change in the limit this year, amendment this year, so these two sections becomes important for your examination because there is a change in the limit. They might ask you the question based on these two sections because there is a change in the limit. Till last year the limit was only 5,000. This year they have updated the limit to 10,000. Can you see the limit in your ICA study mat? Hello? How much is that limit? 10,000. So for example, now come on, tell me. For example, if I am a domestic company, okay? And you are my shareholder, you are a resident shareholder. So shareholder, are you receiving dividend from me during the previous year? Yes. What is the aggregate amount of that dividend which you are getting from me? 10,000 rupees or less. Then there will be no TDS. I will not deduct any TDS. But if during the previous year, I have given you dividend and the total amount of that dividend is more than 10,000, then on that entire amount of dividend, I am going to deduct the TDS at the rate of 10%. Okay. So now I am X Limited. I am a domestic company. and you are a shareholder. What is your name? Your name is Ram. So Ram, are you a shareholder of X Limited? Yes. X Limited is giving you dividend during the previous year. So in the month of June, X Limited is giving you interim dividend, 5,000 rupees. Will X Limited deduct any TDS? No. Why? Because so far, during the previous year, so far the aggregate amount of dividend is only 5,000, not more than 10,000, no TDS. But don't you think during the previous year, X Limited can give you dividend again? Hello shareholder, Ram, during this previous year, in the month of June, how much TDS, how much dividend you got? 5,000. Now in the month of September, in the AGM, company declared more dividend, so you are getting 6,000 rupees final dividend also. So tell me, is the amount more than 10,000? No, only 6,000. But you don't have to check individual amount of dividend. You have to check aggregate. So during the previous year, in the month of June, you have already received 5,000, and in the month of September, you are receiving 6,000 also. So what is the aggregate amount of dividend which Ram is getting from this domestic company? 11,000. On that entire 11,000, 10% TDS will be deducted. So 11,000 into 10% will be how much? 1,100. So that final dividend which I am going to give you, how much? 6,000 in the month of September. From that 6,000, the company X Limited will deduct TDS of 1,100. So 6,000 minus 1,100, the net amount of TDS will be given to you. Understanding? Hello? Now, will section 194 cover dividend? Yes. Which dividend? All the dividends. All the dividends mean final, interim, and also the deemed dividends under section 222A to 222F. All the deemed dividends are covered. So during the previous year, if the domestic company is giving you final dividend, interim dividend, deemed dividend, you have to do the aggregate of all those dividends. So if the domestic company has given any dividend, final dividend, interim dividend, deemed dividend to the resident shareholder during the previous year, and the total dividend given to that shareholder during the previous year, if it is up to 10,000, there will be no TDS. But if the total amount of dividend, aggregate amount of dividend during the previous year is more than 10,000, then on that entire amount of dividend, total amount of dividend, the TDS will be deducted at the rate of 10%. Will you remember this? The same thing applies for dividend on units also. There also the limit is 10,000. Rate is 10,000. Understanding? Everyone, 194 done, 194K done. Whenever you are reading these sections, you have to read these two sections together because the limits and everything is same. Understood? Sure? Okay. So this was your 194 and 194K. So go to that table. Do you know this table on page number 7.47? Yes or no? Can you see 194 here? See, limit also you will see 10,000. Okay, 10,000 limit. And what is the rate of TDS? 10%. Okay, and which TDS will be covered? All the TDS will be, which dividends will be covered? All the dividends will be covered. Dividend includes dividend under section 222A to 222F. Okay, and paid or credited. So threshold limit is also given. One threshold limit is given. See, what is the threshold limit? Dividend, amount or aggregate amount of dividend is greater than what? 10,000 in a financial year. In case of what? In case of individual shareholder. Which shareholder? Individual shareholder. See, example also I gave for Mr. Ram. I did not give the example for any other shareholder. I gave the example of Mr. Ram. So that 10,000 limit will be applicable only if the dividend is given to a resident individual shareholder. But if the domestic company is giving the dividend to any other shareholder who is not a individual, then that 10,000 limit will not be applicable. Understanding? Hello, sir. So tell me here, what should I write? Dividend includes all the types of dividend. Okay. So what is the maximum amount of dividend? Here also and here also. Maximum limit of dividend greater than 10,000. And greater than 10,000 dividend on shares only to resident individual. Then you are going to check the limit of 10,000. Otherwise, for example, if X Limited is there and Y Limited is there, okay, can Y Limited hold the shares of X Limited? So Y Limited will become the shareholder. Can the X Limited pay dividend to Y Limited? Yes. X Limited has to deduct TDS. Whatever may be the amount of dividend. Getting my point? So if the shares are held by any individual shareholder, which shareholder? Individual shareholder, then the limit of 10,000 is applicable, threshold limit. Understanding? Hello? Okay. Now pay attention here. One more point. Okay. 194. Yes. Now in what cases exceptions? Can you see exceptions? Okay. If the dividend is credited or paid to LIC, GIC, subsidiaries of GIC or any other insurance company, I have already told you that if the payee is LIC, GIC, subsidiary of GIC or any other insurance company, if they receive interest on securities, no TDS under 193. And if they receive dividend on shares, then also there will be no TDS. So that exception which was there in 193, that same exception is applicable for dividend on shares also. Who is a payee? Who is a shareholder? LIC, GIC, subsidiary of GIC or any other insurance company. In that case, whatever dividend is paid to them, on that there will be no TDS. Understanding? For other shareholders, TDS will be there. Whatever may be the dividend amount, TDS will be there. But if the shareholder is an individual, then there is a threshold of 10,000. Understanding? Sure. Now see, here last point in 194K. 194K, come on page number 7.53. Can you see 7.53? 194K. Income on units other than in the nature of capital gain. Income on units means dividend on units other than capital gain. I am not talking about capital gain on sale of units. No, I am talking about dividend on units. When you are holding the units as a unit holder, you get the dividend on those units. So on that dividend also the TDS will be deducted. 194K. See, can you see the limit of 10,000? Have they written that this 10,000 is the limit only if the unit holder is an individual? No. They have not written that unit holder is individual, only then the 10,000 threshold is there. Unit holder can be any unit holder. Unit holder can be a resident, unit holder can be any other person. If the total dividend on units is up to 10,000, there will be no TDS. And if the total amount of dividend is more than 10,000, only then the TDS will be there under 194K. Hello, sir. Done, sir. So this 10,000 threshold is for only for individual shareholder. And here this 10,000 limit will be for all unit holders. All unit holders, whether the unit holder is an individual or any other unit holder. 10,000 threshold is for all. Okay. Now, okay, this is the end of 194 and 194K. Now, after 194 and 194K, we'll come to section 194A. Which section, guys? 194A. But before explaining 194A, I would explain one important point, common point. Do you remember how many common points we have done? 2 common points we have done. CP1, CP2. Okay. So these 2 points I am not going to discuss again and again, which I have already discussed. First common point was cess. Cess, surcharge, you have to apply in all the cases. Okay, no? No. Only in the case of salary. And only if the payment is made to any payment other than salary is made to non-resident or foreign company, only then apply surcharge and cess. Otherwise, if the payment is other than salary and the payment is made to resident, then only the applicable rate of TDS will be there. There will be no surcharge, there will be no cess separately. Understanding? Second common point, in all the cases the TDS is deducted at the time of payment or credit, whichever happens earlier. But in few cases, the TDS will be deducted only at the time of making the payment. Okay, no? But now common point 3 I am telling you. Okay, CP3. Pay attention, CP3. Now what this point says? Payer is making the payment which is specified under section 194A, 194C, 194H, 194I, 194J and 194R. 6 payments. Okay, these 6 payments made to any payee who is a resident. So payee is a resident and to that payee these 6 payments are made. But the payment is made by a payer. Now pay attention, if this payer is an individual, payer meaning the person who is making the payment is an individual, or that person is HUF. So the person who is making this payment is an individual or HUF whose last year turnover in business was not more than 1 crore, or last year gross receipt in profession was not more than 50 lakhs. So tell me, are you an individual or HUF? Yes. Are you doing a business? Yes. So last year, the turnover of your business was not more than 1 crore. Sir, I am not doing any business. I am doing a profession. Oh, okay, no problem. You are doing a profession, no? So last year, the gross receipt of your profession, not this year, last year. Last year's gross receipt of your profession was not more than 50 lakhs. Okay. So if payer is an individual or HUF and the last year's business turnover was not more than 1 crore, last year's professional gross receipt was not more than 50 lakhs, and this type of payer is making these payments in this year. So the payments under section 194A, interest other than interest on securities, 194C, contract fees, 194H, commission or brokerage, 194I, rent, 194J, there are 5 payments in 194J including professional fees, technical fees. There are total 5 payments in 194J. Okay, no? And there is 194R. 194R is what? Perquisite given in the course of business or profession. So if you are making any of these payments in this year, so these payments are made in current year and these payments are made to any resident. So as per this section, TDS has to be deducted. But these sections will not be applicable and the TDS under these sections are not supposed to be deducted if the payer is this type of payer. So who is a payer? Individual or HUF? Oh, so you are making these payments in this year. Okay. So no need to deduct TDS because your last year's business turnover was not more than 1 crore. Last year's professional receipt was not more than 50 lakhs. So this year, if you are making these payments to any resident, So these sections will not be applicable. So payments under this section, TDS provisions as above not applicable. TDS provision as above not applicable if the payer is this type of payer. So I'm not going to again and again repeat all these things. Whenever I'll go to 194A, I'm talking about all the pairs but not this pair. If I'll go to 194C, I'm talking about all the pairs but not this pair. For this pair, 194C is not applicable. For this pair, 194A is not applicable. 194H not applicable. 194I, 194J, 194R. These sections are not applicable if the payer is this person. Okay. So payer has to be any person other than this individual or HUF. Understood, sir? So now tell me. I am moving to section 194A. Which section? 194A. Now 194A says that if the payer is making the payment of interest other than interest on securities. Interest other than interest on securities. Why interest on securities is not covered? Because sir, it is already covered by 193, no? Interest on securities already covered by 193, no? So on that interest, this section will not be applicable. This section will be applicable. 194A will be applicable on all the interest other than interest on securities. If the payer is making the payment of this interest to any payee, and the payee is a resident payee, and who is the payer? Payer is any person other than, come on, tell me, other than, do you remember common point 3? Other than this payer. So other than individual or HUF whose last year turnover in business was less than or equal to 1 crore, or last year gross receipt in profession was less than or equal to 50 lakhs. So what if the turnover was more than 1 crore? What if the gross receipt was more than 50 lakhs? Then this TDS provision will be applicable. Huh? But if the turnover was not more than 1 crore, gross receipt was not more than 50 lakhs, then to such type of payers, the TDS provision will not be applicable. Okay. So now tell me, interest on securities. No, not interest on securities. Any other interest. So now which interest will be covered? Have you given loan to someone? Yes. Hello. Have you given loan to me? Yes. So on that loan, will I give you interest? Yes. I will deduct TDS under 194A. I am a bank. Have you kept a fixed deposit with me? Yes. On that fixed deposit, will I give you interest? Yes. TDS under 194A will come. Understanding what I am trying to tell you? Interest on securities, you will apply section 193. But all the other interest, you will apply 194A. Okay. So who is a payer? Payer can be any person other than individual or HUF whose last year business turnover was not more than 1 crore. Last year gross receipt from profession was not more than 50 lakhs. Any other payer is there. Now that payer is giving interest. Which interest? Any interest other than interest on securities to any resident pay. So on that interest, the TDS will come under section 194A at the rate of 10%. At the rate of 10%. And when that TDS will be deducted? At the time of payment or credit, whichever happens earlier. At the time of payment or credit, whichever happens earlier. Done, sir? So whenever the interest will be paid or whenever the interest will be credited, whichever happens earlier, at that time the payer will deduct the TDS. At what rate? 10%. Now see, the aggregate amount of interest aggregate interest should be more than what? 10,000. And mind it, guys, I told you that for dividend, what was the limit? 10,000. Till last year, this limit was 5,000 only, no? So likewise, this limit is also 10,000. Till last year, this limit was also 5,000. So this limit has been upgraded this year. So even this section 194A becomes very important for you. So any interest I am paying, if the aggregate amount of that interest which I am paying during the year is more than 10,000, on that entire interest I am going to deduct the TDS. At what rate? 10%. Payment or credit, whichever happens earlier. Will you remember this? See, I will show you the limit. Can you see this 10,000 rupees limit? Yes or no? So if the interest paid during the year, aggregate amount of interest is more than 10,000, then only the TDS will come. What if the total interest paid is 10,000 rupees or less? Then 194A not applicable, no TDS will be deducted. Understanding? Now, there is one more limit of 50,000 and there is one more limit of 1 lakh. Now, there are total 3 limits which you are supposed to remember. Okay. Now, see, aggregate interest should be more than 10,000. Should be more than 10,000. Okay. And in the case of interest on time deposits, TDS will be deducted if the aggregate interest is more than 50,000 or more than 1 lakh in the case of senior citizens. I am talking about which interest? For all interest, you are supposed to see the limit of 10,000. But when it comes to interest on time deposits, who will give the interest on time deposit? What is the meaning of time deposit? First of all, what is the meaning of time deposit? The amount which you deposit with any bank, cooperative bank or a post office. What did I say? The amount which you deposit with any bank, cooperative bank or post office for a certain period of time. Meaning fixed deposit, recurring deposits which are repayable after some time. Yes or no? All those are covered by time deposit. Mind it, time deposit does not include savings deposit. Because savings deposits are not time deposits, they are demand deposits. Whenever the depositor will demand the money from savings account, the bank will have to give that amount. Because it is not a time deposit, it is a demand deposit. So I am talking about which deposit, guys? Time deposits. So what is the meaning of time deposit? Come on, tell me. Time deposit means FD or recurring deposits payable after some time. They are known as what? Time deposit. But the term time deposit does not include savings deposit. So, time deposit does not include savings deposit. Understanding? So, what if you have kept one FD in a bank? That is a time deposit. Limit of 50,000 and limit of 1 lakh you are supposed to check. What if you are keeping a recurring deposit repayable after some time? So you are making a recurring deposit with a bank, but that amount which you are depositing on a recurring basis in a bank, that amount is going to be given to you after some time. So that recurring deposit which is payable after some time is also a time deposit. Getting my point? So on any time deposit with any bank, any cooperative bank or any post office, if on that deposit the total amount of interest during the year is 50,000 or less, there will be no TDS. But if the total amount of interest during the previous year is more than 50,000, then on the entire interest the TDS will be deducted. But in case of a senior citizen, if the interest on time deposit is to be given to a senior citizen, then that limit will not be 50,000, then the limit will be 1 lakh. So total interest on time deposit given to a senior citizen. What did I say? Total interest on time deposit given to a senior citizen should be more than 1 lakh. Only then the TDS will be there. And remember, these two limits, last year it was 40,000 and 50,000. This year, these two limits have been changed to 50,000 and 1 lakh. 40 has become 50 and 50 has become 1 lakh. Getting my point? So there is a change in these two limits also this year. So this point becomes very important for you. Getting my point? Hello, sir, all the interest other than securities, check the limit of 10,000. Interest on loan, 10,000. Any interest, 10,000. But if it comes to interest on time deposit, please don't check the limit of 10,000. Check the limit of 50,000 and 1 lakh. Will you remember? What is time deposit? Did you understand? But the time deposit does not include savings deposit. Meaning, sir, if the time deposit does not include savings deposit, so for savings deposit interest, what limit will be applicable? No. Exception. Whatever interest is there on the savings deposit, on that, no TDS is deducted. So there you are not going to see the limit of 10,000 also. So first of all, tell me, time deposit, savings deposit. What did I say? Savings deposit is not a time deposit. Okay. Now, interest on savings deposit account, on that interest, no TDS under section 194A is applicable because it comes in the exceptions. But on time deposits, TDS will be there. Amount is more than 50, amount is more than 1 lakh in the case of seniors. And all the other interest, the amount should be more than 10,000. Understood, sir? Should I move ahead? Perfect. Okay. Now pay attention here. Okay. So one question I'm asking. Please give me the answer. Okay, no? HDFC Bank is there. Okay. Now HDFC Bank, Chennai branch, and HDFC Bank, Mumbai branch. Okay. So in Chennai branch also and in Mumbai branch also, I am having FD. One FD I am having in Chennai branch and another FD I am having in Mumbai branch. Okay. On this FD, I will get what? Interest. I will get interest. Now let's say I am getting an interest of 30,000 and here I am getting an interest of 40,000. Possible? Sure? Now my question is, will there be TDS on this interest under section 194A? Did you understand my question? Will there be any TDS under section 194A on this interest? Yes or no? Come on, tell me guys, fast. HDFC Bank is there, one bank, but having two different branches. One Chennai branch and another branch in Mumbai. Both the branches of HDFC Bank, I am having one FD in Mumbai branch, one FD in Chennai branch. So on this FD I am getting 30,000 interest. On this FD I am getting 40,000 interest. So will this branch deduct TDS? Will this branch deduct TDS? Or there will be no TDS? For that, sir, you have to check the limit, no? Am I a senior citizen? No. So limit of 50,000 will be applicable. For example, this HDFC Bank, this is what? This is a time deposit only, no? So this is interest on time deposit. So on this interest on time deposit, the TDS has to be deducted. But only if the interest is more than 50,000. If I'm a senior citizen, only if the interest is more than 1 lakh. For example, if I'm not a senior citizen, so limit of 50,000 has to be checked. So if I check the limit of 50,000, sir, it is not more than 50,000, no TDS. It is not more than 50,000, no TDS. So no branch will deduct the TDS. Meaning you are checking the limit branch wise. We are checking the limit branch wise. From this branch, 50,000. From this branch, 50,000. So you are checking the limit of 50,000. And you are checking that limit branch wise, no? Don't do it. Check the limit bank wise. If the bank has adopted core banking solution, CBS software, you must be aware about that CBS. So every banking company, big banks, no, they adopt a software known as CBS. Which software? CBS. So at central level, there will be a software at the head office which will cover all the branches at given point in time. For all the branches, entire bank, all branches, total operations will be reflected through this software. How much is the total deposit all across India in all the branches? How much is the total amount of loan all across India given by all the branches? How much is the total interest which is supposed to be received by the bank? How much is the total interest which is supposed to be paid by the bank? All India level. This software makes it possible. Understanding what I am trying to tell you. So if, what did I say? If the bank has adopted core banking solution, this software, which software? Core banking solution. Then the limit, what did I say? Then the limit of 50,000 or 1 lakh will not be checked branch wise. It will be checked bank wise. So this bank, all the branches taken together. Single bank, adopted core banking solution, all the branches of this bank taken together. Total interest from this bank is how much? That you are supposed to check. Understanding? So will you aggregate 30 and 40? Yes. 30 plus 40, 70 coming from HDFC Bank. Is it more than 50? Yes. TDS will be deducted. Understanding? Why you added both the branches? Reason is simple. Both the branches are of same bank, HDFC, and HDFC has adopted core banking solution. So what are you going to do? You are going to aggregate the interest. So aggregate interest from HDFC Bank, bank wise, okay, is how much? Is more than 50,000. Therefore, TDS under section 194A will be deducted. So on this 30,000 also the TDS will be deducted. On this 40,000 also TDS will be deducted at the rate of 10%. But what if the assessee is a senior citizen? Then 30 plus 40, total is 70, not more than 1 lakh, no TDS will be deducted. Understood? Sure. But what if the bank has not adopted core banking solution? Then check the limit of 50,000 or 1 lakh branch wise. Then you will check the limit. What? Branch wise. So for example, there is one bank, okay, X bank. This X bank has not adopted core banking solution. No core banking solution is there. So branch 1 and branch 2, both the branches you are having 1 FD. Okay, FD in this branch also, and FD in this branch also. On this FD, interest is there amounting to 60,000. Just a second. On this FD, interest is 60,000, and on this FD, interest is 40,000. Now, there will be TDS under section 194A on this 60,000 since it is more than 50. You will check branch wise, and there will be no TDS under section 194A on this 40,000 because from this branch the total interest is not more than 50. Why are you checking branch wise? Because the bank has not adopted CBS. Instead of 50-50, you will check 1 lakh 1 lakh if the interest is given to senior citizen. Understood? So these are very small points. They test you for these points in the exams. And this time confirm. I'm having a gut feeling that there will be one question from 194A in the exam. This is very important because there is a change in the threshold limits, no? So because of that, this section becomes a little bit more important for this attempt. And especially if they are going to ask you, about this concept. Okay. Should I move ahead? Okay. Now see, what are the other exceptions? So come to 194A. If you will come to 194A, no, I'll tell you, mark those points only. Okay. Remember those points. Remember those exceptions only. So mark this point. Interest paid or credited by a firm to any of its partners. So on this 194T is applicable. Now it is covered by 194T. A separate section has come which covers this type of interest also. Yes or no? So on this interest, there will be no TDS under 194A because this interest is covered separately by a separate section known as 194T, which has become applicable from this year onwards. So earlier there was no 194T also and there was no 194A also. Any interest paid by a partnership firm to the partner, on that there is no TDS under 194A. And there was no 194T also. But from this year onwards, 194T will also be applicable. Although the interest, TDS will not be as per 194A because 194A is not applicable only. It is covered in the exception. But on this interest, the TDS will come under 194T. Okay. So, it will be covered under section 194T. Done, sir? Okay. This first one is important. Okay. The second one is also important. So if you have invested in any notified deposits of central government, deposit schemes, different deposit schemes are there of the central government. So in the notified deposit schemes of the central government, if you have invested and on those deposits, if you are getting interest from the central government, on that interest there will be no TDS under 194A exception. Okay. So second one, okay. Then you directly come to this point. Point number G. Point number G. What they are saying, interest income credited or paid by the central government under any provisions of the Income Tax Act 1961. The best example is interest on income tax refund. So sometimes you pay what? Excess income tax. So will you take the refund of that income tax? Yes. So on that refund, as per the provisions of Income Tax Act, interest is also given. So any interest is given to you? Yes. As per the provisions of Income Tax Act? Yes. By the central government? Yes. On that interest also there will be no TDS. Although that interest is taxable under the head IFOS. So income tax refund coming, not your income, ignore. But on that refund, if the interest is coming as per the income tax provision, that is taxable under IFOS head. But on that interest, there will be no TDS. 194A will not be applicable. Understood? Sure. Next one. Now, yes. Now this point number H is also important. Now, paid or credited to. Again, this word is important. So, this point talks about payees. If the payee is this, and this, if any of these payees are there. So, if you are a payee, any of these payee, and you are getting what? Interest, other than interest on securities. So, any interest given to these type of payees, there will be no TDS. 194A will not be applicable. Okay, so who is the payee? Payee is any banking company, cooperative bank. See, many people will take a loan from bank. Thousands of people, lakhs of people, they have taken loan from the bank. Now they will give the interest to the bank. Will all of them deduct the TDS? No. Now the payee is a bank and bank is receiving what? Interest. No need to deduct TDS. You all please don't deduct TDS because the interest is paid to bank. Now if you all will deduct the TDS, the government will have to run behind you to recover that TDS. So you all please, we request you, don't deduct TDS if the payee is bank, any cooperative bank, etc. Yes or no? Now, any financial corporation, any life insurance corporation, companies or cooperative societies carrying on business of insurance, then UTI, then any notified institution, association, body, class of institution, yes or no? And for this purpose, National Skill Development Fund and Housing and Urban Development Corporation Limited have been notified by the central government. So these two institutions, these two entities are notified. They will give money to many people and they are going to get interest from many people. So all of you all will deduct TDS. No need to deduct. If the interest is given to these notified institutions, no need to deduct any TDS. So remember these payees. If the question will tell you that okay, interest is given, interest other than interest on securities is given to these payees. So the question will ask you, will there be any TDS? If yes, then how much? If no, then why not? So you are going to write down. As per the exceptions to section 194A, if the payee is a banking company, so any interest other than interest on securities given to a banking company, there is no TDS which has to be deducted under 194A. Hence, no TDS will come in this case. What type of case will be given in the question? Mr. Ram has taken a loan from bank. Mr. Ram has taken a loan from the bank. On that, Ram is supposed to give interest to the bank amounting to rupees 2 lakh. How much interest Ram is supposed to give to the bank? 2 lakh. Ram is confused whether to deduct TDS on this payment of interest to bank or not. Discuss. Tell me. Ram's last year business turnover was more than 1 crore. They will be giving in the questions. Sir, if the individual's turnover is not more than 1 crore, then he will not deduct TDS. But if the individual's last year turnover was more than 1 crore, then he will have to deduct. So Ram's last year business turnover was more than 1 crore and Ram is making the payment of interest. Ram will have to deduct TDS, sir. But wait, Ram is making the payment of interest to any bank. And as per the exceptions, if the interest is payable or paid to any bank, it is covered by the exception. No need to deduct any TDS, whatever may be the amount of interest. Getting my point? So these kind of questions, these kind of easy questions will be framed in the exam. And trust me, whether you remember anything or not, in all the sections, compulsory you have to remember the exceptions which I am telling you, threshold limits which I am telling you, because they are going to test you for those threshold limits and these exceptions. They will try to know that whether the student has actually learned those threshold limits or not. Student is aware about these exceptions or not. So whatever exceptions I am telling you to mark important, please mark those exceptions properly, read those exceptions also along with the threshold limits. Yes or no, sir? Should I move ahead? Done? Okay, very good. Now this I, J, all these points are time pass. Okay, no need to get into detail. So these 3-4 points which I have told you to mark properly. Okay, read all of them. 194A is done. Now after 194A, no, see this illustration number 2 is there. Mark this illustration also important. Okay, do this illustration at home today. You will come to know whatever you have studied, no, whatever I have discussed so far, you will be absolutely be very easily able to cover this illustration. Very easy. So my involvement is also not required. Okay. So let's come to 194BA. But wait, before that, no, tell me, 194A is done, no? Now 3 sections I am going to write. How many sections? 3. 194B, 194BB and 194BA. In all the 3 sections, no, they are talking about what? Winnings. Here also winnings. Other than winnings from horse races and online games. Here also winnings from horse races, and this section also winnings, but winnings from online games. Understanding? So all the 3 sections will talk about winnings only. This section says on this winning TDS will be deducted. 194BB says that on winnings from horse races TDS will be deducted. 194BA says that winnings from online games, on that winnings also the TDS will be deducted. Done, no? Now pay attention. If this winnings given by any person to any person, whether the recipient is a resident or a non-resident, will not make any difference. Whoever is the payer, whoever is the payee, will not make any difference. Payee can be resident, payee can be non-resident, any payee. Payer can be any payer giving these type of winnings. Okay. So if TDS is there, so TDS under section 194B at the rate of 30%. Here also TDS. Wait, huh? Here also TDS under section 194BB at the rate of 30%. And here also the TDS at the rate of 30% under section 194BA. Can you see everywhere the rate of TDS is same, 30, 30, 30. Now difference is what? TDS at the time of payment. Sir, at the time of payment. At the time of payment and also at the end of the financial year if no payment is made. from online gaming account. Okay. Now, at the time of payment, and what is the threshold? Greater than 10,000, greater than 10,000, and any amount. Did you understand the difference? If the total winnings is more than 10,000, then TDS will be deducted on the entire winnings. But if the total winnings is less than, if the winnings amount given to you is 10,000 or less, then there will be no TDS. 194B, 194BB. So if lottery winnings are there, 194B will be applicable. Winnings from TV game shows, 194B will be applicable. Winnings from card games, betting, gambling, 194B will be applicable. But 194BB will be applicable if there is winnings from horse races. 194BA will be applicable in the case of online gaming. Now, in the case of online gaming, no, any amount, even if it is a single rupee, TDS will be deducted. But any amount of what? Of net winnings. Now, what is this net winning? To be calculated as per prescribed rules. So you are not supposed to learn these rules, that how to calculate that net winnings and all. Okay, no. So rules are prescribed to calculate the net winnings. So what is the total amount of net winnings in your gaming account? So whatever may be the total amount of net winnings in your gaming account, on that amount the TDS will be deducted whenever that amount will be paid to you. But sometimes it happens, no, that you have won some amount, that amount of winnings is there in your gaming account, but since you have not withdrawn that amount, since that amount is not paid to you, then on that amount which is there in your gaming account, net amount of winnings which is there in your gaming account at the end of the year, on that amount also the TDS will be deducted, whether that amount is not paid to you. Even if on that amount the TDS will be deducted at the end of the year. But the net amount of winnings you have to calculate. How will you calculate that net amount of winnings? As per the prescribed rules. And are we going to see those rules? No, we are not supposed to see those rules. The net amount of winnings will be given in the question. On that net amount of the winnings, whatever amount of net winnings is there, whenever you withdraw that amount, whenever that amount is paid to you, at that time the TDS will be deducted. But sometimes you win through online games, but the amount which you are winning, no, will not directly come in your hands. First it will be credited in your gaming account. And from that gaming account you are going to withdraw that amount. From that gaming account that amount is paid to you. So if I am not in the need of money, I will keep that winnings amount in my gaming account only. I am not withdrawing that amount. That amount is not paid to me. Still on that amount, at the end of the year, the TDS will be deducted. So whatever amount which is lying, whatever net winnings which is lying in your gaming account, as at the end of the year, on that amount also the TDS has to be deducted. And whatever amount which will be paid to you, the amount which you are withdrawing, net winnings which you are withdrawing, meaning paid to you, on that amount also the TDS will be deducted at the rate of 30%. Got it, sir? Limit is 10,000 and there is no limit. In case of 194BA, rate is 30% in all the cases. Done, sir? And what if the winnings is given in kind? I have already discussed in the IFOS chapter. Sure. So 194B, 194BB and 194BA. These three sections you are supposed to do together like this only. Okay. Remember only this much. This is sufficient. Done, sir? Should I move ahead? Okay. After 194B, BA, okay, we'll come to 194C. One of the very important sections. Maximum time. If you will see question on TDS, no, they are going to ask you. They ask you question on this 194C. Majority of the times in your examination, you are going to get a question. A favorite section for the institute. Okay. Now pay attention. 194C. Not a difficult, very easy section. Very easy section. Okay. Just remember whatever I am telling you. That's it. Okay. Pay attention. See. Payer. Who is a payer? Payer can be any person. But other than. Tell me other than. Individual or HUF. Whose last year business turnover was not more than 1 crore. Last year professional gross receipt was not more than 50 lakhs. Yes or no? So payer is any person other than individual or HUF whose last year turnover in business was not more than 1 crore or last year gross receipt in profession was not more than 50 lakhs. Any person other than this individual or HUF. Okay. Now this person, this payer is making a payment. Which payment? Making a payment for work to be done under a contract. Payment under a works contract. You might have heard about works contract. Yes or no? So if I am giving you some work and there is a contract between you and me, right? No. So under that, see, that contract can be a written contract also. That contract can be an oral contract also. But we are contractually obligated. You are contractually obligated to do my work. And I am contractually obligated to pay you for that work. So there is a contractual obligation, whether written or oral. There is a contractual obligation between you and me. Under that obligation, you are supposed to do some work for me, and for that work, I am under a contractual obligation to pay you some money. Understanding? So I am making a payment to you for any work to be done under a contract. In simple words, if I'll say, it is known as contract fees. What it is known as? Contract fees. Now this contract fees has to be paid to a payee. Payee meaning the person who has done that work for me. So the person who is doing that work for me under a contract is a contractor or a subcontractor. Yes or no? So the person who is going to undertake that work, who is going to do that work for me is a contractor or a subcontractor, but he has to be a resident. Resident contractor or a subcontractor. So I am a person. I want you to do this work for me. For example, I want you to, do the repairing work of my office. I want you to make furniture of my office. I want you to repair the air conditioners of my office. So there is some or the other work. Any type of work I am talking. Any type of work. Yes or no? It can be repairing work. It can be, construction work. It can be any type of work. So do this work for me, and for that work, I am going to pay you this much. But that work you are going to complete. You are contractually obligated to do the work. I am contractually obligated to pay. So for that work which will be done by the contractor or a subcontractor who is a resident, for that work I am going to make the payment. So from this payment the TDS will be deducted. TDS under section 194C. Now that TDS will be deducted at the rate of 1% or it will be deducted at the rate of 2%. So there are two rates of TDS. TDS rate can be 1% also, TDS rate can be 2% also. Now 1% if contractor or subcontractor is individual or HUF. So the person who has done my work, my contractor or my subcontractor to whom I am giving that payment, if that contractor or subcontractor is an individual or HUF, I will make the payment At that time, I will deduct the TDS at the rate of 1%. But what if contractor or subcontractor is any person other than individual or HUF? Then the TDS will be deducted at 2%. So if I am giving some work to a company, so the company will do my work. I will make the payment to company. How much TDS I will deduct? 2%. If I am giving some work to an individual, that individual is doing my work. Who is a contractor? Who is a subcontractor doing my work? Individual. So to that individual, if I will make the payment, I will deduct TDS at the rate of 1%. If there is a partnership firm, I am giving my work to a partnership firm. So who is a contractor? Who is a subcontractor? Partnership firm. So will I make the payment to that partnership firm? Yes. What will be the rate of TDS? 2%. Understanding? So if the contractor or a subcontractor doing my work is a individual or HUF, and if I am making the payment to that contractor or a subcontractor who is an individual or HUF, then I will deduct 1%. To any other contractor or subcontractor, if I am making the payment, I will deduct TDS at the rate of 2%. Done? Now pay attention. Here they are saying that 1% TDS, 2% TDS at the time of payment or credit, whichever happens earlier. So whenever I make the payment of that contract fees, or whenever I credit that amount in my books, whichever happens earlier, at that time I will deduct the TDS. But there is a threshold. There is a threshold which says that if single payment for that contract is more than 30,000, only then the TDS on that payment will be deducted. Single payment has to be more than 30,000. But sometimes it happens that to that contractor for doing my work, I am making multiple payments. And even if the aggregate of those multiple payments is more than 1 lakh, then also I will have to deduct the TDS. So if a single payment I have made out of those multiple payments, any single payment is there, that payment is more than 30, on that payment I have to deduct TDS. And if aggregate payment, aggregate of multiple payments, aggregate of multiple payments is more than 1 lakh, then also I will have to deduct the TDS. Now what does it mean? To understand this thing, this is very important. Now please remember, please listen to me very carefully. Okay. See, I might give, you are my contractor. Okay. For example, Vaishnavi is a contractor. I told Vaishnavi that Vaishnavi, there is some furniture in my office. For example, not furniture. I'm opening a new office, new CA office. Okay. So I want you to do the interior designing work for my office. So Vaishnavi said, okay sir, I'll do that interior designing work for you. So there is a contractual obligation between me and Vaishnavi. I'm getting my office. I'm getting the work done for my office. What kind of work she is doing? Sir, she is doing the interior designing work for me. Now for that interior designing work, whatever payment I'm going to give her. Okay. So it has been agreed that she is going to charge 20,000 from me. How much? 20,000. So she did the interior designing work and I paid her 20,000. Only single payment 20,000 I paid. Will I deduct any TDS? No. Contract amount is also 20,000 and the single payment paid is also 20,000, which is not more than 30,000. So I am not supposed to deduct any TDS. Full 20,000 I will give to Vaishnavi. Now for example, she told me that sir, I will charge 50,000. I will charge 50,000. I said no problem. So the entire work she has taken, contract value is how much? 50,000. I don't have to check contract value. Forget about contract value. Huh? Contract value will deceive you. You have to check the payments. So Vaishnavi is a contractor. She is doing one work for me. For that work, she is going to charge 50,000 from me. Now I will make the payment to her. One payment 50,000. Will I deduct TDS or not? Have I made the single payment? Single payment of 50? Yes. Is it more than 30? Yes. I will deduct TDS. What rate? 1%. Why? Because Vaishnavi is a contractor. She is an individual. I will deduct 1%. So 50,000 into 1%, how much? 500 rupees. I will deduct 49,500. I will give her net amount. Did you understand this? Now what if I am making two payments? 25, 25. 10th June, I paid 20,000. Will I deduct any TDS? No, because the single payment made is not more than 30. I am not going to deduct any TDS. Now second payment, again 25,000 on 15th of July. So one payment I made in June and second payment I made in July. How much? 25, 25. Single payment more than 30? No. None of the payment more than 30. Now please check the aggregate. 25, 25. Is it more than 1 lakh? No, no TDS. So on this entire 50, there will be no TDS. If I am giving single payment less than equal to 30 and aggregate is also less than equal to 1 lakh, there will be no TDS. Understood now? Sure. Now, for example, I have given the repairing work of my building to Shrikant. Okay, Shrikant is a contractor. I will tell him to do the repairing work of my building. For example, repairing work or painting work or plumbing work, whatever type of work. Okay, now. So for example, I want to get my building repaired. Okay, there are too many cracks. Outside also the building is not looking proper. So he is a construction contractor. I have asked Shrikant, I have told him that Shrikant, please, repair my entire building. There are too many cracks, leakages there. Okay, Shrikant said, okay sir, I will do this work. I have showed him this is to be done, this is to be done, this is to be done. So now Shrikant is entering into a contract with me, repairing contract of building. Now he is saying that sir, I am going to charge 3 lakh rupees. How much? This entire building I will repair. Okay, but for that entire repairing work, I am going to charge how much? 3 lakh rupees. I said, okay, no problem, Shrikant. But 3 lakh rupees, no, I am not going to give you at a single payment, as a single payment, no. You start doing your work, as and when your work is completed, no, to this extent, I will make you a payment. Sometimes, there are, contracts under which completion of construction completion. So this much construction will be over. I will make you this much payment. You complete till this much. You might have done construction contract in your costing, etc. Okay. So this much work you do, I will make this payment. This much work you do, I will make this payment. So 3 lakh rupees is going to charge. Okay. So first payment during the previous year, first payment in the month of April, 28,000. Tell me, is the single payment more than 30? Is the single payment more than 30? No, only 28,000, not more than 30. No TDS. Aggregate 28 only. So far I have paid total how much? 28 only. And aggregate is also less than 1 lakh. There will be no TDS. Now he will do some more work, some more repairing work, and he will raise a bill. And now this time I have paid him 30,000. Will I deduct TDS? No. Because this time also single payment is not more than 30. Hello. And the aggregate 30 plus 28, which I paid earlier. Yes or no? Total is how much? 58. Not more than 1 lakh. Will I deduct any TDS? No. On this 30 also I am not going to deduct TDS. Now in the month of August, I paid him 40,000. Will I deduct TDS? Because 40,000 is more than 30. On this 40,000 I will deduct TDS, 1%. Understanding? But wait, earlier how much I paid? 28 plus 30, 58 plus 40, 98. Aggregate is not more than 1 lakh. But this single payment was more than 30. So on this single payment I will deduct TDS. Understanding or not? Now, in the month of December, I am making a payment of 20,000. Will I deduct TDS? I will have to. And now this time I will have to deduct the TDS on the entire aggregate amount. Because see, 20,000 payment made in December, this 20,000 single payment is not more than 30. But if you see, the moment I paid 20,000, no, first payment 28, second payment 30, third payment 40, 98 plus this 28, 1,18,000. How much, sir? Is it more than 1 lakh? Entire 1,18,000 I will have to deduct the TDS. Entire 1,18,000. So 1,18,000 into 1% will be 1,180. 1,180. But don't you think out of this 400 I have already deducted on that 40,000 third payment? So on this entire 1,18,000 the TDS has to come now. But out of this, on 40,000 already the TDS has been deducted, no? Reduce that amount. So on 1,18,000, calculate 1%, that is 1,180 minus on that 40,000 which I have already deducted TDS, 400. So how much will remain? 780. So when I make the payment of that 20,000, from that 20,000 I will have to deduct 780. So 780 I will deduct, and 400 I have already earlier deducted. 400 plus 780, total will be 1180. And that 1180 is what? That is the total TDS on 1,18,000. This way they are going to tell you to calculate what? TDS. Understanding? Now see, wait. Can I give one work to Shrikant? Yes. But during the previous year, can I give multiple works to him? I don't have to see that I am making a payment under a single contract or a multiple contract. No. Contract can be multiple contracts. I have to check during the previous year to one contractor how much payment I am doing. If the single payment done by me is more than 30, or the aggregate payment of all the contracts taken together is more than 1 lakh. So aggregate payments during the year to that contractor under a single contract or a multiple contracts, whatever may be the number of contracts, yes or no, I am least bothered about that. To that individual contractor, to that single contractor, total payments made by me during the year is more than 1 lakh. On that entire amount, the TDS has to come. Understanding? Sure. Now this is very important to understand this threshold, because they ask you the question on this threshold only in 194C. Now please be very careful. Now there are two important points which you have to keep in mind. 194C not applicable in case of personal contracts. So if you are getting some personal work done from someone, yes or no, for example, I am getting married, and in my marriage I am calling some caterer to do the catering work. So that caterer is doing a work for me, catering work he will do, okay, but that catering work, that work which he is going to do is of personal nature. For that, whatever payment I am going to give him, no, on that I am not going to deduct any TDS. Why? Because the contract given, the work which was awarded was of personal nature. So there will be no TDS under section 194C. 194C will not be applicable if the work is done under any personal contract. Understanding? Sure? Second one, 194C will not be applicable in case of work done by professionals. Work done by whom? Professionals. Sometimes you get your work done from professional also, no? What work you have? Oh, okay, you want me to fight your case in the court. I am a lawyer. You want me to fight your case? So bloody, I am doing some work for you. What work I am doing? I am fighting your case. But I am fighting your case as a lawyer in my professional capacity. So the work which I am going to do for you is a professional type of work for which I am not going to charge you contract fees. For that I am going to charge you professional fees. Oh, you want me to audit your books of accounts? Okay. So auditing the books of accounts is also a work which I am going to do, but that is a work of professional nature which I am going to do for you. As a chartered accountant, as a professional, I am going to do that auditing work for you. And for that auditing work which I am going to do in the capacity of a professional, that is a professional work done by me. And for that professional work done, I am not going to charge you any contract fees. I am going to charge you professional fees. So if there is any work, okay, which is done by professionals, so for that work, contract fees is not paid. What is paid? Professional fees. And that professional fees is already covered under section 194J. So don't apply 194C there. Understanding? Sure. And one more important thing you are supposed to remember. 194C applicable only on contract fees and not on GST component. GST, you know na? GST. So if you are doing some work for me, meaning you are supplying some services. So are you going to supply some services? Meaning you are doing some work for me, you are giving me service. For that service, am I going to make you the payment? Wait. You will have to first issue an invoice. Services for the work which you have done, the services which you are giving me, for those services, you will issue an invoice. Invoice of rupees 1 lakh plus 18% GST. So you did my work, no? You are a contractor, you will do my work, okay? But after doing my work, you are going to raise an invoice. How much was your service, value of the service? 1 lakh. Okay, no problem. Oh, you are providing me services, you are supplying services. So GST is also applicable. Okay, no problem. 1 lakh rupees invoice plus 18% GST. You will say, sir, see, I have done your work. For that work, 1 lakh rupees I am charging and plus 18% GST. So you have raised an invoice of 1,18,000. I have got the invoice of 1,18,000. Now I am going to make you the payment of 1,18,000. Don't you think I am a payer making you a payment of 1,18,000 for the work done? Yes or no? But that 1,18,000 is not for the work done. Only 1 lakh rupees is for work done. The TDS has to come on that 1 lakh and not on that GST component, because that GST which you are going to get from me, no, is not your income. You are just collecting that GST from me so that you can give that GST to the government. That 1,18,000 is not your income. Your income is only 1 lakh. For the work done, how much you are charging? 1 lakh. On that 1 lakh only the TDS will be deducted. So are you an individual? Yes, I will deduct 1%. Are you a person other than individual HUF? Yes, I will deduct 2%. But that 1% or 2% I am going to deduct only on the value of work done. Only on the contract fees which you have charged. Yes or no? And not on the GST component. But for that, you have to show your GST and the amount for work done separately in the invoice. So raise your invoice, show the amount of 1 lakh separately, show the amount of GST 18,000 separately. I will make you the payment of 1,18,000. 18,000 full amount I will give you, but from that 1 lakh I will deduct TDS. But the TDS will always be on that 1 lakh. But for that, the GST component should be shown separately in the invoice. But what if you have raised one invoice, total value 1,18,000, and you are not showing separate amount of GST in the invoice? Then will I deduct TDS? Yes. On what amount? Full invoice value. If you don't want me to deduct TDS on the GST component, show the GST separately in the invoice. Understanding? But if you have not shown GST separately, invoice value is inclusive of GST, then on the entire invoice value, the TDS will be deducted. Understood? So first thing you have to remember, 194C. See, this GST point no is applicable not for 194C. It is applicable for all the payments where GST will be applicable. Yes or no? So first time I'm bringing this point under 194C, but this point will come under 194J also, other places also. So whenever you see any payment I am making and that payment I am making along with GST, whether it is 194C, whether it is 194J, any type of payment I am making along with GST, the TDS will always come on the amount excluding GST. TDS will not come on the GST component. TDS 194C applicable on contract fees and not on GST component if both amounts shown separately in the invoice by the pay. However, if GST is not shown separately in the invoice, then if GST is not shown separately in the invoice, then TDS under section 194C shall be on entire invoice value. Entire invoice value. Done, sir? These three important points will you remember for 194C? Yes or no? Now pay attention. Very important point. Huh? Last point. They have also defined work. So work means what? Whatever work you do for me will be work only. It can be repairing, it can be renovation, it can be this, it can be plumbing, it can be painting. Any type of work you are doing for me. Yes or no? That is a work. But the term work also includes 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. 5 points are there. If any of these activities are done by you for me, this will be treated as work. And any payment for these activities will be known as contract fees. On that 194C TDS will come. Understanding? So if you are a person, if you are a contractor or a subcontractor, if you are doing any of these activities for me, it will be considered as if you are doing a work for me. And for these activities, if I am making you the payment, that payment will be known as contract fees only. And on that payment also, I am supposed to deduct TDS under 194C only. Understanding, sir? Hello, sir? First payment. Not 5, 6 activities are there. supply of labor. So are you supplying me labor? Yes. It is known as work done. So for the supply of labor by you, whatever amount you are going to charge, that will be contract fees. On that, I am going to deduct TDS under section 194. For example, I am having a big factory or I am having a construction site. On that construction site, I need some workers to do the construction activity. I am a builder. I am a big company. Some project is going on. Construction project is going on. So, on my construction site, I need some workers. What do you think? As the owner of the company, will I roam across India and find out the workers on my own? You know many workers from different villages all across India. You will go and you will bring the workers and supply that workers or laborers on my site. And for those workers which you are supplying to me on my site so that they can do my construction work, you are charging me some amount. So supplying the labor by you to me is also treated as work. And for that, if any payment I am going to make, on that payment I am going to deduct TDS under 194C. Understanding or not? Second is advertising. Are you doing some advertising for me? Yes, it is a work done. And for that advertising, if I am making you any payment, I will deduct TDS under section 194C. Understanding? Then broadcasting and telecasting of any program or production of any program for broadcasting or telecasting. So you are doing any of these activities. Are you broadcasting or telecasting my program? Yes. And for that, if I make any payment to you, see, sometimes no, to broadcast or telecast a program on a TV channel. So I want my program to be broadcasted or telecasted on a TV channel. Okay. I will tell the TV channel, please, TV channel, can you run my program on your channel? So channel will say, okay, we'll broadcast, telecast your program. But for that, we need this much amount. So will I make the payment to that TV channel for broadcasting or telecasting my program? Yes. I will deduct TDS under 194C. Because broadcasting and telecasting is also treated as work. Oh, now there is a separate thing. Production. What did I say? Production. So that TV channel is approaching someone, some production house, telling that production house that you produce a program so that we can show that program in our channel. So channel is telling any production house that produce a program so that we can run that program, we can telecast, we can broadcast that program on our channel. You must have seen that Kapil Sharma show. Kapil Sharma is a very famous comedian, you might be aware about him. So Kapil Sharma is a comedian. Okay. Now Kapil Sharma show is a program which Sony channel wants to show. So Sony channel will approach Kapil Sharma production house, that you produce a comedy show which we can telecast on Sony channel. So Sony is approaching Kapil Sharma production house. Sony TV, Sony channel is asking the Kapil Sharma production house to make a program, produce a program, comedy show, so that comedy show, that program can be broadcasted or telecasted on that channel, Sony channel. For that, Sony will give the payment to Kapil Sharma production house. Sony will deduct TDS under 194C because it is also work done. So if any channel is broadcasting or telecasting, any payment made to that channel will attract TDS under 194C. If any production house is producing any program and payment is made to that production house, it will attract TDS under 194C. Understood? Because it is covered under the definition of work done. Now, see, point number 4, catering. Catering is also work done. I have also given you the example. So if someone is doing a catering work for me, that is a work done. Whatever payment I will do, on that payment I will deduct TDS 194C. But sir, you said that TDS will not be deducted. Yes, I said. Provided the catering is for personal purpose, then I will not deduct TDS. But catering can be for business purpose also. For example, in my company, there is one big function. Okay, employees annual function is going on in my company. Or for example, I have invited all my distributors all across India, all my distributors of the company, I have invited them for a get together. So in my company, there is a get together of distributors. They will come, they will enjoy, the company is going to host them, company is going to feed them. For that, will I require the help of any caterer? Yes. So caterers will do my catering work, and that catering work is not done for personal purpose. For that, whatever payment I will make, on that I will deduct TDS. Understanding or not? Because it is 194C. Work done. Catering is also work done. Any work done which is for personal purpose will not attract TDS under 194C. But if it is not for personal purpose, if it is for business purpose, then work done for business purpose will attract TDS under 194C. Understanding or not? So catering is what? Catering is also work done. For catering also, if I will make any payment to someone, on that also I have to deduct TDS under 194C. Getting my point? Next one, point number 5. And this point is important. Transportation of goods or passengers by any mode other than rail. Sir, will you transport goods for me? Will you transport passengers for me? Yes. By what mode? By any modes. You can transport through bus, you can transport through rickshaw, you can transport through cabs, you can transport through trucks, any mode of transport. Okay, no? Other than railway. See, because through railways also, I will get the goods and passengers transported. So for that transportation, I will make the payment to railways. But on that, TDS provisions not applicable. Exception. Transportation of goods or passengers will be treated as what? Work done, provided it is done through any mode other than railways. So transportation of goods, transportation of passengers is work done. For that, whatever payment will be made, on that payment TDS has to be deducted under 194C. But that transportation has to be made through any mode except railways. Except what? Railways. So, my company's goods are manufactured in the factory. Can you please transport the goods from my factory to my godown? Hello, transporter. Can you please transport the goods from my factory to my shop, to my godowns, to my different depot? So transporter says, okay, I will come with my truck in your factory. I will load the goods. I will transport the goods to your branch, to your depot, to your, godowns, etc. For that, I will charge freight charges, transportation charges. Charge. I will pay you freight charges, I will pay you transportation charges, but TDS under 194C, I will have to deduct because transportation of goods is a work done. Hello? Sir, my employees are coming to factory, okay? Every day, so many employees are there coming from different places, okay? So some employees are facing lot of difficulty in traveling, okay? So can you please bring my employees to my factory in a bus, and then can you drop my employees to their houses in a bus? So you are a bus operator. Can you transport my employees from one location to my factory, then factory to their location? Can you do that? Yes. But sir, for that I will charge transportation charges. No problem, charge. But I will deduct TDS under 194C because transportation of passengers is also a work done. And this transportation is done through any mode other than railways. But very important point here, most important point here, and this has been tested many times in the exams, okay, that if payment is made for transport of what? Goods. I said goods only. Did I write passengers? No. Payment is made for transportation of goods. Okay. To any goods transporter having what? Less than or equal to 10 goods carriages. GC means goods carriages. Okay. TDS under section 194C will not be applicable on that payment. So are you a transporter? Yes. Transporting goods for me? Yes. For that transportation of goods, am I going to pay you freight charges? Am I going to pay you transportation charges? Yes. On that transportation charges, freight charges, I will not deduct any TDS under 194C. If you own 10 or less goods carriages throughout the previous year. But see, goods transporter having 10 or less goods carriages, goods transporter having 10 or less goods carriages throughout the previous year. For this, you are supposed to give me a declaration. And in that declaration, you are supposed to give your PAN. You are supposed to give your PAN. So do one thing, transporter. Just give me a declaration that during the previous year, you are not owning more than 10 goods carriages. Can you give me that declaration? Yes. And in that declaration, give your PAN also, permanent account number, so that you can be identified. Permanent account number is what? PAN. Okay, no? So it is your identity. Just identify yourself as an assessee. Okay, what is your PAN number? Give me a declaration in the prescribed format along with your PAN, and in that declaration just tell me that you are not having more than 10 goods carriages ownership during the previous year. If you declare that, whatever payment I will make for transportation of my goods, on that payment I am not going to deduct any TDS. No TDS will be deducted. 194C will not be applicable. But if you want 194C not to get attracted, you have to give me this declaration along with your PAN. What declaration you are going to give? That throughout the previous year, you own 10 or less goods carriages. Even for a single day, you will have more than 10 goods carriages. It is not going to help you out. Okay. So throughout the previous year, every day during the previous year, you must own 10 or less goods carriages. Give me the declaration along with PAN. I will make the payment of freight charges. I will not deduct any TDS. 194C will not be applicable. But this declaration cannot be given by a transporter who is having more than 10 goods carriages. Understood? Many times this point has been tested in the exams. But now, wait, tell me one thing. Did you understand this much? So, are you a transporter? Yes. Transporting passengers for me. Transporting passengers for me. Whatever transportation charges I will pay, I will have to deduct TDS under section 194C. Done, sir? Are you a transporter? Yes. Transporting goods for me? Yes. So whatever transport charges, freight charges I am paying you for that transportation of goods, on that also I am supposed to deduct TDS under section 194C. Okay. But wait. Are you a transporter transporting goods for me? Yes. Having 10 or less goods carriages throughout the year? Yes. Give me a declaration along with PAN. Have you given that declaration along with PAN? Yes. I will pay you the transportation charges. I will pay you the freight charges, but I will not deduct any TDS. In every other case, I will have to deduct TDS. Understanding? Under which section? 194C. Because transportation is also treated as work done. Done, sir? Okay. Now last point. Last point now very important. Last point is also important. How many points we have done? 5 points now. Now this is the 6th point. Okay. 6th point which I am telling you is job work. Have you heard about it? But wait. Job work is what? Job work is equal to manufacturing or processing any article or thing as per the specification of customer, as per the specification of customer by using material purchased or supplied by the customer or his associated party. Hello, can you manufacture these kind of bottles for me? Job worker, I need blue colored bottles. Okay, here I want my academy's name printed. My academy is name printed, blue colored bottle, okay, with this kind of cap and this kind of design. Exactly same. I'm giving you specification that I want what type of product I want. Can you manufacture such type of product for me? You said, yes, sir. We are having a big factory. In that factory, we can manufacture these type of bottles. Tell me how many bottles you want. I said, I want 1,000 bottles like this. 1,000 bottles are blue color. The shape of the bottle should be a square shape. The cap of the bottle should be like this. I want my name of my academy engraved on this. All the specification, what type of product I want you to manufacture for me, I am giving you that specification. So as per my specification, can you manufacture this? Yes, yes. Do one thing, wait. To manufacture that item, no. Raw material I will give you. You have to buy that raw material from me. or you have to buy that raw material from my associated party. Because I want my bottle to be of specific quality. I cannot rely on your quality. Bloody, if you will go in the market, you will buy whatever material. I don't want that material. I want to sell these bottles to my customers. And to my customers, I want to give the best quality. And that best quality can come only if you use the raw material which I am supplying you. So buy the raw material from me, or buy the raw material from the person whom I know, my associated party. And the raw material which you will buy from me or my associated party, convert that raw material as per my specification and then give me those bottles. So how this bottle will be made? There will be some raw material which will be required. From where you are buying that raw material? Open market, from anyone? No, you are buying that raw material from me. What you are doing? The raw material which you are buying from me, which you are taking from me, you are converting that raw material as per my specification and then you are giving back that raw material to me. But are you giving that raw material in the same raw form or in the converted form? Yes. I will give you plastic. I will give you paint. And you will convert that plastic, you will convert that paint, etc. into a bottle and give me that material back. Are you giving me the same item which I gave you, or you are processing it and making it a new item for me as per my specification? This is known as job work. Now, whenever you are going to do this thing, are you going to charge me? How much amount you are going to charge? Will you charge for the material? Yes. Bloody, you have bought the material from me and that same material you are converting and giving it to me. So will you charge for the material? Yes. But will you charge only for the material or also for the conversion? Job work. Yes or no? So when you will raise the invoice, what you will write? Material charge this much. Because first you have bought that material from me. And you are passing on that material to me, so you will charge for material. Yes or no? Plus labor charges for converting the material as per my specification into a bottle. Yes or no? That conversion charges, job work charges, labor charges also you will charge. So 1 lakh you are taking for what? Raw material. And 20,000 you are taking for what? Conversion charges, job work charges. So how much is the total bill which you are raising? 1,20,000. Getting my point? I have to deduct TDS on that. Because here, no, you are doing a job work for me. Job work is also work done. But I am not going to deduct TDS on the entire 1,20,000. Have you issued an invoice of 1,20,000? Yes. But in that invoice of 1,20,000, how much is the amount which you are charging for the work done, job work? Entire 1,20,000 or only 20? Only 20. Because that 1 lakh which you are charging is not for any work, it is for sale. The goods which you have purchased from me, you are selling those goods to me. For how much? 1 lakh. So that 1 lakh is a sale component. That is not job work. That is not for work. Material which you have taken, to pass on that material, you are charging 1 lakh. That is sale component. That is not work. That is not for work. But the extra 20,000 which you are showing separately in the invoice as labor charges, that is for work done. And on that amount I will have to deduct TDS under section 194C. So how much is the total bill value? 1,20,000. Will I deduct TDS? Yes, because you are doing a job work for me. And for that job work, if I am making you a payment, on that payment I am going to deduct the TDS. But I am not going to deduct TDS on that entire 1,20,000. I am going to deduct TDS only on that 20,000 value. But for that 20,000 you have to show separately in the invoice. Show the amount for material separately. Show the amount for labor charges separately. Job work charges separately. Then on only the job work charges I will deduct the TDS. 20,000 is the job work charges. On that I am going to deduct TDS. Understanding? But what if you are giving me a total bill of 1,20,000, no segregation? How much you have charged for material? How much you have charged for job work? Are you showing both the amounts separately? No. Full value 1,20,000. Have you converted the material as per my requirement? Yes. So convert the material as per my requirement and you have raised an invoice and total invoice 1,20,000. I asked you that how much is for material and how much is for labor charges, job work charges. You said pay 1,20,000. No, sir. I will not segregate in the invoice. I said no problem. If you are not segregating in the invoice, then I will have to deduct the TDS, and now the TDS will be deducted on the entire 1,20,000. If both the amounts are not shown separately. So job work, when it will be considered as a job work, guys, when it will be considered as a job work, when you are manufacturing or processing any article or thing, any product, as per the specification of the customer by using the material purchased or supplied from or by the customer or his associated party. Only then it will be treated as job work. And in the case of job work, now what are you going to do? You are supposed to deduct TDS under section 194C. Okay, TDS will be deducted. TDS will be deducted only on job work or labor charges on entire invoice value. When it will be only on job work or labor charges? If value of material and job work or labor charges shown separately in what? Invoice. Understanding? Then only on the job work charges I will deduct TDS. But on the entire and invoice value I will deduct TDS. If value of material and job work or labor charges not shown separately in invoice, then on the entire invoice value I will deduct the TDS. Understanding? Now wait for a second. Hello, can you make these 1,000 bottles for me, guys? Hello, job worker, can you make these 1,000 bottles for me? Specification, everything I am giving you. Square bottle, cap like this, my academy name, everything. 1,000 bottles can you give me? Done. Manufacture and give. So you manufactured and you gave. Did you take the material from me or my associated party? No job work involved. It is pure sale. You will go outside, you will buy the material, and that material you will convert as per my specification, and you are selling me the bottles which I wanted. So you are manufacturing those bottles on your own which I want, and you are selling those bottles to me. You are not doing any work for me. There is no job work involved here. Why? Because you are not purchasing raw material from me. The raw material is not supplied by me to you or my associated party to you. So even if you are manufacturing the item as per my specification, still it will not be treated as job work if you are not taking material from me. So in order to be considered as a job work, you have to take that material from me and convert that material and give it to me. Only then it will be treated as what? Job work. Understanding? If I tell you to give me 10,000 pens, can you make 10,000 pens like this? Name will be Umang sir. Okay, the pen will be of white color. Manufacture 10,000 pens like this and give it to me. You said, okay sir, no problem. I can manufacture 10,000 pens like this and I can give it to you. As per my specification, you manufactured 10,000 pens and gave it to me. Did you take the raw material from me? Did you purchase the raw material from me or from my associated party? No. So you are not doing any work on my material. You are buying material on your own, converting that material as per my specification and selling the product. It is pure sale. There is no job work involved. Understanding? Job work will be only when you are buying the product from me, raw material from me, and converting that as per my specification and then giving it back to me. Only then it will be job work. Will you remember, sir? This is the end of 194C. Okay. So we are going to take a break, and after the break, now small sections are there. We are going to end this TDS very soon. Okay. And then we are going to start with TCS. We'll end TCS, and within some time we are going to end with the advanced tax also. Okay. So we'll take a break for 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, we are meeting after a small lunch break, and we'll complete. Okay. See you after some time. See you after 45 minutes. Bye.